a nation that is going to be free again, thank God, or you can have 8 more years of Barack Obama-like communist and socialist policies under Hillary Clinton. And that is where we're at right now. But Tom, I'm just concerned that the cynicism and the lack of moral depth in our country, and it's a spiritual issue. It's not just political. It's a spiritual issue in our nation. We are so in darkness right now that no matter what is being said, I'm not so sure people will understand or grasp it, and they're going to do what they're going to do anyway.
Let me ask you, we've got about 3 minutes left, 3 to 4 minutes or so. How do you see the election? I think the South will pretty much unite behind Donald Trump. Florida's a question mark because Florida is no longer a southern state. It's probably has more people from New York and New Jersey than there are left in New York and New Jersey.
That's
so
true. That's true. That is true.
That's another story. Some of the key states, Ohio being one, I don't know if you'll get any help from John Kasich out of Ohio. Probably not. Some of the other ones, Ted Cruz, I don't know if Ted will help out in Texas or Arizona or not, but what about some of the key states? And we're down to 3.5 minutes.
Tom, let me say this about those states, and let me just make a bold prediction on this program this morning. Newt made it last night, and I heard a few of the commentators on Fox say it, and I'm just going to sort of follow their lead. If the Republican base will consolidate behind Donald J. Trump, the Republicans, I'm not talking about the Democrats, and I'm not even talking about the independents. If the Republican base will consolidate behind him, he wins this election. Now, Florida, Ohio, what's the other one? Those 2 states he's got to have. Pennsylvania is another one. But I feel in my heart that he is going to pull a few surprises out of the hat in that Rust Belt. Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, that area up there where it has went Democrat the last few years, the last few election cycles. He's got a shot up there because there's a lot of people out of work. Pennsylvania, there's a lot of people out of work. They're looking for a hope. And I know we got just a few minutes, and I want to just shift real quick on talking about these states because he does have to win that. But I would just tell people, don't get all bent out of shape. I know the media is trying to get you to focus on these polls right now, but a lot of these polls, Tom, are only sampling anywhere from 800 to 1,000 people in them. You can't judge the country on 800 to 1,000 people. You just can't. Ask Britain. Hey, I mean, they didn't expect them to leave the EU 24 hours before they did, and they did. But I do want to say one thing this morning as a leave, and I hate to change the subject, but it is really on my crow this morning. I do want to get this in. I believe that I want to say the prayers are going out to the people in Louisiana this morning with this flooding, but I want to remind the listeners that in 2005, George W. Bush was excoriated for flying over New Orleans during Katrina. And our president has been playing golf for the last week without any even statement about the Louisiana flooding. And not only has he not flown over Louisiana, he's not even mentioned it. And these people are hurting over there. And I just find it very, very corrupt and wicked that the media has been absolutely solid on that, while basically calling George Bush a racist and a lot of other names that they did in 2005 during Katrina. That is how we have become cynical in this nation. That is why part of the reason people don't trust a word coming from the media, the government, and we lose faith in our institutions. And we've got to get that faith back, Tom, to be a great again. That's how America will become great again, when we can believe in what we are as a nation, in our government, in our institutions, our schools, and each other.
We appreciate you for coming by. We always have past 15 minutes when we do. And sometimes,
that we do.
Sometimes we get in trouble. Most of the times we don't. So I do appreciate you coming by. Thank you for joining us. Coming up, let me remind our listeners that may not know, probably most of them are aware of this. I've announced it several times during the course of the morning. And CBS News coming up in about 20 seconds. Well, nope, I tell you what. We will talk into CBS News at
Sounds
the top
good.
of the hour.
Sounds good.
Because we will be airing CBS News at the top of the hour, so we don't want to have a 10-minute CBS Newscast replay from 8 o'clock and then go directly into a CBS Newscast live at the top of the hour. And the reason I say that, Larry Carter will not be hosting Bluegrass for Breakfast for a short period of time. He was in a car accident on Wednesday, August the 17th, on Wednesday. He's doing well and is recuperating at the hospital, but will not be live in the studio for a short period of time, but he will be back. And all of us at WCXZ ask that everyone listening to this program keep Larry and his family in their thoughts and prayers, and he will be back at the very nearest future. But he's resting in a hospital and recuperating, and then we'll of course go back home and then hopefully as soon as possible rejoin us at 74 WCXZ for Bluegrass for Breakfast. A lot of people listen to Larry for Bluegrass for Breakfast, and for all of them, please keep Larry and his family in your thoughts and prayers. So we got 9 minutes left. Any closing? Let me ask you this: we talk about polls, and I don't trust any political poll. However, the ones with had Bill Clinton beating George W. Bush, I didn't believe those. H.W. Bush, I didn't believe
right.
those either. But some of them are accurate, but many of them aren't. Have you ever been? I'll ask you a couple of questions. Number one, have you ever been consulted or polled on anything at all? And I think the average, guy who lives up, a holler in Claiborne County, Tennessee, or Bell County, or Lee County, or goes to work, and does its job. I wonder how many people from Claiborne, Lee, and Bell County are contacted on these polls. I would say 0 to not many.
Tom, you brought up the biggest reason why you cannot trust these polls, and I keep saying it over and over. Even if she is up 10 percentage points, if you put in a room, if you've got 800 people, and 600 of them are registered Democrats, I mean, of course you're going to show a poll that's going to be favorable to Hillary Clinton. I don't know anybody, I've never talked to a soul down south that has ever been contacted by one of those pollsters. Never. They always do these polls in the most liberal of precincts, liberal of areas of the country, the Northeast. Look, the poll that shocked me this week the most is the LA Times poll. They had Donald Trump up by 1%. I mean, are you kidding me? The LA Times had him up. But
so
yet,
you're telling me then, and I believe this, if you're conducting a poll in Kentucky, you go to Louisville. If you're conducting a poll in Tennessee, you either go to Memphis or Nashville. So it's where you conduct those polls.
Where you conduct those polls is very key. And another thing that I've noticed, and if you have to go online to find some of these, but where I've seen them sample like 50 to 100,000 people, Donald Trump is trouncing her. Now, when you get in a room of 800 to 1,000 people, I mean, I'm not saying the polls are skewed, and I am not going to go as far as to say what he said, that the thing is rigged. I don't believe that. But I do believe that there is a slant on these polls to show the liberals in charge. And let me tell you, I think this is more important. This is the more important story is this right here. This is why they do that. I've told you from the beginning, I'm not ashamed. I know there's a lot of Trump people out there that are supporting him that are closet Trumpers. They're gonna have to come out of the closet come November, Tom. They just are, because they don't want to admit to nobody that they're for Donald Trump. Well, I don't care about all that. I'm totally on the Trump train. I've been on it for a while. I don't agree with everything he says sometimes, and again, I wish I could have an intervention with him and just have a Coke with him and sit down and, have an intervention program with him sometime about what he says. But anyway, this is what my point is. They want to get in the mindset of the public that this race is over, okay? Because when you feel like in your heart this race is over, two things are going to happen. You're not going to send him money, and number two, you're not going to go out to the poll and vote for her to begin with. Because come November, if the media has convinced you that this thing is over with, then why vote? I mean, she's up 10 points, 15 points. Why even waste my time and go to the polling station? He's already beat. And see, that is the story. That's why they do these polls in August, and then the media goes ape crap crazy over it and say, well, Hillary's just beating him. Trump, the campaign is in trouble. He needs a re-intervention. He needs reorganization. This Trump campaign is horrible. And look, every campaign, Tom, in the history of the United States of America, I remember Reagan. People remember Reagan. I was a sophomore in high school back in 1980, but I remember even in that summer before, leading up to that race, it was a given understanding that Jimmy Carter was going to beat Reagan by 20 points. And we had the biggest landslide as far as an incumbent president getting beat in the history of the country. Now, I think, Romney, the polls were showing Obama beating him. That turned out to be true. Look, you can put whatever faith you want to in the polls, but let me encourage our listeners today, don't base your decision to vote on what the media is telling you, because you need to get out and make sure your voice is heard in November. You've got to. And that's the reason they do this stuff, is because they want to get it in the mindset that if the election's done with, you don't have to do anything. And I believe what it does. What it does to me, it makes me madder. It makes me want to dig my feet in even more and get the word out to say, look, our country's in a mess. We've got to make a change. But again, when you're dealing with an electorate that cares more about words than about deeds, you got a problem.
Well, you mentioned Mitt Romney, and of course Mitt Romney was his own worst enemy, and that's the reason I do not want to hear anything coming from Mitt Romney about how to win an election or the Republican Party. So with that said, because Mitt just quit campaigning.
Exactly.
Campaigning 2 weeks or so before the election. So he just quit. He backed up. So polls don't really apply to Mitt Romney. He did it himself. So anyway, it's 56 and a half minutes after the hour. Why don't you close it out?
Well, I want to go back to this Republican hierarchy, and is malarkey a word I can use on the radio, Tom?
Malarkey.
I can use malarkey. Yeah. The Republican hierarchy is full of malarkey. That's how I want to go out this morning, because I'm I told a friend of mine not too long ago, I'm not upset so much even with the media as much as I've been upset with these elites, the Wall Street Journal, the John Kasichs, the Ted Cruzes, Bill Kristol, Eric Erickson down in Atlanta, who's a jerk. It's just amazing. And this is the thing, Tom, that I've never understood, is where was all of this bravo? Where was all of this action during the last 8 years of Barack Obama's presidency, when we needed these Republicans to be fighting for the country? We needed the Republicans to be fighting for the country. And where were they? They were nowhere to be found. You mentioned Mitt Romney. If he would have had this much fight against Barack Obama that he had against Donald Trump, you'd have Mitt Romney as your president. And John McCain's the same way. I respect John McCain. I respect Lindsey Graham. But they have been silent, and they've sit on their little hands like a bunch of babies with a pacifier in their mouth. Grow up. Clint Eastwood, I won't use what he said, but he said, grow up and stop acting like a bunch of babies. Look, the country is at stake. This is not about Donald J. Trump, Tom. This is about our nation. It's about our nation. I know we got a minute. We need to pray for our nation this morning. And I want to just throw in, we're praying for Larry Carter. We're praying for your friend here at this station. But we as a people, we need to get serious about praying and being concerned about our country, the United States of America, the greatest country on the face of this earth. If we care about our nation, we will change the course of it. The way we do that in our country is by the voting and the ballot box in November. We need to vote and get out. Stop listening to the media. Stop listening to the stuff that's being said to you. Think for yourself. Learn the stuff. Stay on top of it. Get off the video games. Get off the phones. Get involved in politics. Get involved in this nation. Your nation needs you. And I believe we've got a clear choice in November. We've got to take that chance.
59, almost 59 and a half minutes after the hour. We appreciate Chris McDonald for stopping by once a month or so and giving us his views on the political world. And again, I'm going to repeat something that I mentioned this morning for those standing by that haven't heard the news. Standing by Bluegrass for Breakfast will be on, but Larry Carter will not be hosting Bluegrass for Breakfast for a short period of time. He was in a car accident on Wednesday. Wednesday, this past day before yesterday, August 17th. He's doing well, recuperating in a hospital, and everyone at WCXC asks that you keep Larry and your family in your thoughts and prayers. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock.